Welcome to Here's the Deal, where we educate, elevate, and inspire entrepreneurs. On Here's the Deal podcast, we bring 30 years of business banking experience to you, and we tell the real stories of business owners, the challenges, the lessons, and the wins that define their journey. Through Here's the Deal video marketing, we help you share your story with the world, creating high-quality video content that's easy, comfortable, and connected, because the story sells, not the numbers. Here's the Deal Production is a coaching, consulting, and production division designed to help entrepreneurs, business owners, and industry experts launch, grow, and professionally manage your podcast platforms without the technical barriers that often prevent the execution. You bring us a story, we'll refine the vision. Every entrepreneur has a story worth telling, and then Here's the Deal, that's where that story comes to life. Hey everybody, what's going on? All right, well, we still, especially here in Arizona, are still capitalist, right? So maybe not every part of the country still is, or trying to affect, but as far as Arizona goes, we're still capitalist. So supply and demand, it works. The market told me what it wanted. So I listened and I built it. Now I'm scaling it. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to read a demand based on, what the market was telling me. And, you have to adapt to it before you start losing out on business. You know what I mean? So I've been getting a lot of questions. Like I just did the whole last episode about podcast coaching and, the coaching and the producing of it, because it had a lot of people come up and ask me, hey, how are you doing your podcast? What tools are you using? What are you using to edit? And here's the deal, man. I didn't plan on starting a podcast coaching business, but the market demanded it of me. Like I said, I had to go ahead and, adapt my business model because, hey, I saw the opportunity to, diversify my revenue streams, and being a banker, I'm all about that, or a former banker, I should say. So I wanted to adapt to that business. I want people give, meet that supply and demand need, because if I don't do it, somebody else is going to. So if you can, understand how to adapt to the business, to the new business model for doing that. And, you have to know how to, be able to delegate and automate, certain things. That way you're not just putting that much more workload on yourself already. You want to stay in your genius. Actually, this is like the 103rd episode of the show that I've done. A lot of people had the same question about, the podcast. Like I said, how to get it. So that, like I said, that wasn't a coincidence. That's a pattern. Okay. So much so, like I said, I had to, I was even asked, did you start doing speaking engagements on starting podcasts? Going back to the last episode, most podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes. I'm on 103 right now. Okay. My buddy Eric, we just did his show, my business coach, Eric Whitmoyer, the Biz Coach Show. He's approaching 200. Okay. So this is, like I said, we know what we're doing. we've been in the game now for a minute. So we actually know what we're doing. Commercial banking, I spent 30 years trying to find, the story that the numbers missed. That skill is still applying, here right now, but instead of the numbers, I'm looking for the questions. I'm looking for, the stories. So as I'm out doing my thing, this just kind of kept coming up and all different areas and all different circles, and I'm like, okay, it's screaming at me. I gotta get this done. Most entrepreneurs, miss that demand because they're too busy staying, in what they love, right? The original plan, but you got to be in love with the customers, man. Again, like I said, you got to give the customers what they want. So I'm still staying. I mean, the podcast is the podcast. The video marketing is video marketing. Those are also saying, but remember the show I did a little while back, keeping the main thing, that whole series. This is still part of the main thing. Okay. This is a part of what we do here at Here's the Deal. Like I said, we're all about educate, elevate, and inspire entrepreneurs, right? Well, if entrepreneurs have a demand, like they want to start a podcast, like I said, $200 billion business. Okay. The creator economy is not going anywhere. Right. So like I said, if my business owners are demanding it, I need to educate, elevate, and inspire them to do it. So that's why I created the new product. Like I said, this creator economy is not going anywhere. It's projected to hit like 408 billion by 27. And that's according to Goldman Sachs. Okay. So, active creators worldwide. It says over 207 million people, but 162 million are in the US alone. Okay. Again, creator economy, it's there, right? And like I said, so if you haven't started a podcast yet, you can. You need help, you call Here's the Deal. So it says roughly 55% of creators can now run the content as a full business. Okay. This is my full business. Okay. I don't, this is not a side hustle for me. Okay. This is what I do. I do this, I do the video content creation, and now I'm going to start helping people with, coaching them through their podcast and through their production. Right. So again, there's money to be made here. You can do it. Goes back to the 3 pillars we talked about last week, right? Have a clear message, be consistent, and hit the effing button. Right. But, and you can do this. Like I said, if you need help, that's what we're here for. Being a banker, right? That's one thing I was always talking to my customers about. I would talk to them about diversifying revenue streams and customer concentrations, right? I did this all the time because a lot of people that I dealt with, they were like, hey, I got this big contract with the DOD, or I got this big contract with Walmart or Amazon. That's great. How much of that creates your revenue for your total gross revenue, right? If that's over 30%, you better start diversifying. Okay. You got to bring in some more revenue streams. If, let's say sponsorships of the show, which are coming back, got some people coming online. If that was my only source of revenue, which it was in the beginning until Eric hit me up and said, hey man, you're creating valuable video content. You better start selling it. Boom. I adjusted then, right? I made that adjustment too. I pivoted to that because I was just doing a podcast and I had some show sponsors. And then my business coach pointed out to me, same exact thing. Hey, video content, sell it. It's scalable. What did I do? Created the marketing side, started doing that, right? Easy, comfortable, and connected. That's what we're doing on the video side. Same thing with the podcasting, right? You bring us the story, we're going to refine the vision, right? So that's what we're doing. But the diversifying the revenue, can earn you like 75,000 more on average than just a single stream for a creator. Think about that. Okay. You can, you can really bring in that extra, far, above and beyond what you were doing. You don't want to run away from that. You want to embrace it, and it's going to be hard. Okay. But you have to think about it. If, here's the deal. If my mission wasn't to educate, elevate, and inspire, I wouldn't, I have to inspire myself too, to be able to, take on these new roles. But the one thing that we're doing, like I said, is we're doing it correctly. Like I said, I'm not trying to do this all myself. Okay. I know enough to say, hey, you know what? I can't do this. Plus it's not my genius. Okay. I could do it I do it for Eric. I do it for my business coach. And I produce my show now, but now I got a couple people that want to produce the show for me. I start bringing those people on, and that's less stuff I have to do. Okay. And what does that allow me to do? Allows me to stay in my genius. Okay. Allows me to go out and connect with people and talk to them. And that's where I shine. That's where I thrive. Okay. When I came up with a new product, I had to come up with the new slogan to say, hey, you bring us the story, we refine the vision. That's my whole offer in 7 words. Okay. That's the hook right there. You got to let people know what it is that you're doing, so that way they know the full scope. I monetize it because if you give it away for free, it doesn't scale. You know what I mean? But when you put a price to it, now people are going to start valuing it. Now, like, okay, and plus it makes it sustainable to me. Okay. My time is valuable. I can't be sitting around going around coaching, basically giving away, the milk for free. You got to buy the cow, right? like the old saying says, I have the expertise now and I have the knowledge, and you're going to have to pay for it if you want it. So I'm willing to help people, here and there, but at the same time, hey, I got to feed my family too. I'm not selling, coaching. I'm not really selling editing. Again, staying in my genius, what I'm selling the clarity. I'm selling the message. I'm selling the strategy on how to create the story. The production is just delivery vehicle of that. Okay. So that's why I know I have to delegate that. Okay. I have to, I'm going to use, I'm going to use AI. I'm bringing on people, to help do those production things. But where I'm going to shine, like I said, is I'm going to still meet with the clients and go over the whole storyboarding and how the podcast is going to look, how it's going to feel, things like that. Again, that's my genius. That's what I do. And I'm going to have my friends and use my AI tools to help me out in the back end. And we're going to make all that happen. Most podcasts die because the host is trying to do everything. The market doesn't need more hosts, but it does need more hosts that won't quit. Because like we went through the last episode, I don't even remember how many podcasts got started in during COVID in 20, and man, most of them dropped off, right? Because, like I said, because they couldn't stick with it, they couldn't do it because they were trying to do everything themselves. I'm not. There's no way I'm going to be able to produce this show, Eric's show, do the video content, and start coaching people on podcasting. That's just not going to happen. Okay, and I know that. Right. So I'm like I said, I'm a little bit smarter than that and say, okay, we can make this happen. I'm just going to definitely have to incorporate some help for sure. It's because podcasting, I said, monthly listeners was like 158 million in the US alone. Like, the numbers are there. It's staggering. Like I said, $200 billion business. Get a piece of that action. Okay. And again, you don't have to do it on your own. Here's the deals here to help. Right. The market growth is projected, I guess, like in 24, it hit like 32 billion, and then it's going to be up to 130 billion by 2030. That's just the projected growth of it. Again, these numbers are just staggering to me. So the market's not saturated. You're not too late, but you better start doing it now. I know AI isn't going to replace me. It's going to remove those bottlenecks because, again, if I try to do my show, Eric's show, and if I'm trying to help somebody else do their shows too, things like that, there's going to be such a bottleneck. There's only one of me. So that's like, there's no way that's going to happen. AI can't replace me developing the strategy. AI can't replace me storyboarding with a client and drawing out their story and their why. That's something AI is never going to be able to do. I won't say never, but it's definitely not doing it now. So, but that's where we come in. I mean, hey, I use AI. I'm using it to get my transcripts. I do, for my hook generators, captions, cutting the reels, things like that, SEO search. I mean, I use it. Believe me, I use it a lot. I got Claude, I got Chat. Sometimes I even use Gemini. I use all three of them if that's what it takes. Excuse me. So, but let me tell you where I'm not using it. Okay. This conversations. Okay. My conversations with my clients. Okay. AI is not going to do that for you. Okay. That's not going to happen. So my guests and my clients know who they're dealing with. They're dealing with me. Decisions on, what stories to tell. I'm the one asking the questions. I'm the one hearing the things that it may be common to you. Some just kind of common out. Something you did when you were a kid, like when I talk about me being a serial entrepreneur since I was a kid, like I said, going out into those golf courses, okay, and finding those golf balls in the river and the streams and the ponds and cleaning up. I had my mother selling them at work because a lot of her coworkers were golfers. I tell that story. You're going to tell me something similar in those veins, things like that, or something about when you were a kid, this, that, and I'm going to hear it. That's a reel. We got to get that on tape. You know what I mean? That's AI's not doing that. AI's not, that's me. People should be worried about AI, flooding the space with junk because it does. I mean, it really does. But the human connection to these stories, I just talked to somebody the other day. I can't wait to get her on the show. She started her business. Okay. By necessity. So you want to talk about market demand? She had to start her own business because both of her kids were special needs kids. Okay. And she couldn't hold a regular 9-to-5 job and, drive to work and do this and that and third. And plus on top of that, her husband had a business. So she's like, hey, I'll help you support your business because, she's good with the customer service. She's good with the sales side. Just like me, I was getting a lot of demand for the podcast. She was getting a lot of demand from other business owners. Hey, can you help me with my business? And she did the exact same thing. She just pivoted and said, you know what? I might as well make a business out of this where I can help people with their sales process and I can help people with their customer service and things like that. And she's doing great. Again, The market was screaming at her, and she just made it happen. And it works out great for her because, like I said, now, she can, she's been taking care of, of course, she's been taking care of her kids for a long time, but, saying it filled that void where she makes her own schedule and she can take care of the kids, and do all that and run a successful business. So I can't wait to get her on, because that's going to be a great story. When she was telling me, I was like getting stoked about it. Right. So, again, if you're not, Eric and I were just literally just had a whole show on this, just recorded it earlier today and said, if you're not using AI yet, you're already behind. So you got to start using AI in your business as it is. And especially, like I said, if you're going to, start running a show, running a podcast, it's definitely a tool that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to use. 84% of creators are already using AI tools in 2026. 84%. Okay. Are you one of the 16%? Or are you part of the 84? I'm part of the 84. What does it say here? It says top earning creators use AI roughly 2 times more than the rest and see 2 to 5 times higher engagement. Okay. Because if you're using AI for like, your show hooks and things like that, right? The titling, things like, AI, like I said, when I use the way I use AI, I'll take the transcript from the show. I'll throw it into chat, or I'll throw it into Claude. And I already prompted both of those. Hey, here's the social media platforms I'm on: like Google business page, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it customizes my posts based on all those platforms. It's already doing all the SEO. It's doing all the stuff already. You know how much time that saves me? It saves me so much, and it's more accurate. How am I supposed to know how the LinkedIn algorithm changed and this and that? But the AI is is already aware of that and customizes the message for that particular platform. Okay, and especially for like editing as well. I mean, well over 60% of creators right now are using AI for editing. I definitely use it. Like I said, we use it for, cutting the reels from the long form videos and things like that. It's like, AI is like electricity for creators, man. You're not going to cut out the hustle by using it, but you just got to learn how to, you got to learn how to adapt to it, or like I said, you're going to get lapped. Okay. Cause if I can't use AI to cut the reels from the long form, things like that, how many hours it's going to take me to get that done? And now, like I said, you still, again, AI is not perfect. AI is not the end all be all. Okay. So let's get that straight. You still have to monitor, because like I said, I had it making some forms for me. And like I said, and especially ChatGPT loves to get creative and add a bunch of shit that I didn't like. I'm like, where did you get this information? Because I didn't put it into you. So you're going to have to really pay attention to it. But at the same time, it really helps me. I'm hiring people now, right? It's not just me anymore. So now what do I have to do? Okay. I got, if you're going to make a business scalable, you have to have automation and you have to have delegation. Well, you have to delegate. What should you have? You should have an SOP, right? Your standard operating procedure. Military guy, I don't care if you're military or not, but me, military guy, got to have an SOP, man. Because like I said, because I can't demand's a strong word, but if you're a leader, you have to demand it. I can't demand my employees or people I'm delegating to be at my standard if they don't know what my standard is. So in the SOP, it has to be clear. Here's the expectations. These are the minimum expectations. Okay. Now you want to be like Office Space and you put the minimum amount of flair on. Great. Okay. But if you want to go put, more than the minimum amount of flair, there you go. But at least now you know what the minimum amount of flair is. Okay. Office Space movie. Google it if you haven't seen it, but it's funny as hell, especially if you worked in corporate America. I can't, I can't hold anybody accountable in my company coming on, whether they're, being my assistant or, can help me produce shows, things like that, if they don't know what the standards are. So did I write the SOP? Absolutely not. I input everything into Claude. I say, here's my standards. And plus it already kind of memorized me, kind of knows me, things like that. So I put in what I expected. It just kind of cleaned it up and made it, nice and, nice and pretty, and so made it sound a lot better. But it's clear cut. Okay, I'm like I said, I'm not doing it on my own. This is where AI is useful, because for me to sit down and do all these kind of things, again, it's keeping me out of my genius. Did I get into this to do video edits, and did I get into this to write SOPs? No. Is that where I shine? Not even close. Okay, but I'm still meeting the demands of my clients and my potential clients, because I'm giving them what they need. Being able to meet that supply, but doing it smartly. Okay. Bringing on staff, isn't an expense. Everybody's like, oh, I can't. I was just talking to a guy, and young guy running a construction company. He's killing himself. He's doing everything. He's answering the phone. I mean, he has somebody answering the phones, but he gets phone calls in the field, and he's doing, it's like, dude, you are killing yourself, man. He says, hiring more people is an expense. I said, no, it's a multiplier, man. It's a multiplier, because the less time he's on the phone dealing with, suppliers and stuff like that, the more time he's on the job bidding, okay, bringing in more revenue. That's the same way with me. If I'm sitting here behind the screen doing video edits or producing somebody else's show, all right, what is that going to do? All right, that's going to bog me down. No. Like I said, that's why I'm bringing on people now, because that's going to be my force multiplier. Okay, like I did with the video. Video is a force multiplier for you. People will be seeing your message while you're having those conversations. But hiring more people, getting VAs, or getting, in my case, getting, producers to come on board and help with the production, that's going to be my force multiplier. So I could be out, working with the clients. You don't want to get burned out. It's easy to get burned out when you're a solopreneur, right? You got to be able to let go of certain tasks. Okay. Like I said, delegation, I've done shows on this. Eric's done shows on this. The delegation part is a key. Using an AI tool is delegation. Okay. That may not seem like it as much, but think about it. If you hire somebody, say you hire an assistant, or you hire a salesperson or whatever, right? Office manager, whatever the need is, you're going to delegate certain jobs to them, things like that, certain obligations, responsibilities, however you want to word it. And you got to let them go. You hire the right people, you do it smartly, people that are, it's up to you to clearly voice the message of the business. Okay. And then it's up to get their buy-in. If they're not buying in, they're not going to do good work. If they're bought in on what you're doing, okay, when I bring on people and I tell them our main mission is to educate, elevate, and inspire entrepreneurs, okay, to get businesses going. If they're not down with that program, if they're down for the paycheck, I don't need them. Okay. But if they want to help spread that message and get other people starting up businesses or taking their business to the next level, to where they start hiring people and they can start delegating, things like that, that's what we do it. Here's the deal. Okay. And that's what you have to be focused on as well. So if you're not willing to delegate, you're not willing to let those things go, you're going to be the problem. You're going to be the bottleneck. All right. When you're looking at delegating, and I apologize because my landscapers are here. I delegated that. I'm not outside mowing my lawn, cutting my weeds. I got landscapers for that. And they just happen to be here right now. Awesome. Live show. It happens. All right. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions when you have a task on your plate. Okay. This is going to be the differentiator on whether it needs to be delegated or, you need to do it yourself. Am I the only one that can do this? That's the first question. Am I the only one, let's say me, myself, that can respond to emails from people wanting to be guests on the show? Am I the only one to do that? No, I'm not. If you answer no to that question, then you need to delegate it. That's why I have a VA to, get the ball rolling, get people the forms and get the appointments set and recording set, things like that. Right. Question number 2. Does this directly grow revenue or a relationship? If it doesn't, automate it. Okay. Again, if somebody requests to be on the show and I need certain information from them. I need their, their business bio. I need, their bio. I need their logo JPEGs, things like that, all their social media, all that kind of stuff, right? I don't need to be doing that. I got my CRM automated. All the forms are there. Send it out. Bam. Okay. That's not, generate by me sending out those forms to the potential clients. That's not making me money. Okay. That's not generating revenue. Automate it. Here's the big one. Number 3. Okay. Does it use my genius? If it doesn't use your genius, get rid of it. Okay. Again, my genius, talking to the clients. I have, I have a decent IQ. I think it's above average. I know it is, but my EQ, okay, my emotional quotient, that's high, and I know it's high. That's my gift. Okay, so as I'm talking, like I said, as I'm talking to the clients, I'm hearing those things that I know people are going to resonate with, especially that, like I said before, the single mom, or my friend Daphne, who started Modern Grind Coffee, things like that. She was a school teacher, and then, she wanted to do this, and she wanted to help the school teachers out and how, help them make money with it. And like, boom, there it is. Right. I'm hearing that. That's the story. That's using my genius. Okay. And that's what I need to do. And this other stuff, it's not it. Okay. This is something you have to remember. Okay. We're going to wrap it up. Read the demand. Okay. If people are telling you, hey, if you're in a restaurant, right? So you run a restaurant and you're getting a lot of demand to have something vegetarian on the menu. Say, you might be a barbecue place. I don't know, whatever. Right. And you could just flat out say no. You could just flat out tell them that no, we don't serve that. Okay. It's not going to happen. That's okay. I mean, there's, you can't make everybody happy. You know what I mean? You got to have your niche thing. You got to have your bottom line statements, things you're not going to, like when I was going to start a catering business. I was running a catering business for a minute. I didn't change my sauce. My sauce, I made a different sauce than my Sunday sauce. It was a little bit different than my true family recipe, but it was still good sauce, right? But in my opinion, being Italian, it's got to have the acid in the sauce. Okay. Most of these restaurants have changed, like they put sugar in the sauce. They want, little tip, if you're going to sweeten up your sauce, use red wine and reduce the red wine in the sauce. Don't use freaking sugar, for Christ's sake. You're freaking killing me. Right. Okay. I don't want to go down that tangent, go on a whole sauce tangent. I could do a whole show on that. Anyway. So, but you do have to read the demand. So if you can make that adjustment, like I said, for me doing the podcast coaching and producing, I can do that. It's in my sphere. It's in the I run a podcast, run video marketing. It's right there. I'm not starting some IT business. Okay. Not doing that. Don't, whatever. I'm not starting, some, merch business where I, start making merch. If anything, I'm getting more merch made now. My own shit. But I'm saying, like I said, I'm keeping the main thing. This is within my sphere of the main thing. So I'm reading that demand. Adapt to it. All right. Use your tools. Use AI. Use your network. If you got people that can help you out, I mean, hey man, if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, okay. If you got somebody that can give you an app or something and white label it, make it look like it's yours, get their pricing, charge a little bit on the top. You're not doing half the work. Okay. And they can, say, hey, but it's got your label on it and everything like that. Go for it, man. Especially, in the beginning. So that way you can, until you can ramp up your own production of it. If you have to outsource some of that stuff, go for it. Use those tools, man, but stay in your genius. Okay. If you're a mechanic, keep cars running. If you're a chef, keep cooking. Like I said, I'm a storyteller. I'm going to keep talking to people and getting their stories. Creator economy scaling, podcasting scaling, AI scaling too. Okay. The window to get in still early-ish. All right. But it's not closing. So again, if you want to start a podcast, get in. Okay. That's what the market's telling you. I know it's what it told me. Like I said, read the demand and then go for it. And if you need help doing that, just contact us at Here's the Deal. Okay. I'll give you a free consultation, get you started. And then, like I said, I'll come up with a plan. I'll come up with storyboard, and I'll come up with that. Then that's where we start exchanging cash for ideas. Okay, but if you've been sitting on a podcast idea, it's kind of it's eating at you. Okay, that's exactly what Here's the Deal coaching and production lines for, right? You want to do a show, what it's about, things like that. Contact us. We'll help you. Like I said, you bring us a story, we're going to refine the vision. All right. So, like I said, that's it for this week's episode. Just wanted to thank everybody because now, we're 102 episodes in. And like I said, we're still just going. We're still just scratching the surface yet. So if you have any questions about anything, just hit the email link below, or like I said, hit my Calendly link. Those will be in the show notes, things like that. And most importantly, hit the effing button. Let's go. Here in closing up the show, and Here's the Deal. Just want to give all honor, glory, and praise to my Lord Jesus Christ, who saved my soul and gives me the ability to do this show. Without him, I couldn't do anything. Also want to give thanks to my family. My wife, my kids support me doing this and, backing me up. I couldn't do any of this without them also. Got to thank the sponsors, of course. Everybody that, supports the show. And, of course, the fans, the people that subscribe to the show. I wouldn't do any of this without you because it wouldn't be a show. So just want to say thank you all very much. Continue to, educate and elevate. Get out there, pursue your passions, pursue your dreams.